Good evening to the graduating class of 2017. My name is Paul Rohde. I am the chair of the economics department. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the department's commencement, to celebrate with your family your accomplishments. This is a special year. This is the year that we celebrate the 200th anniversary of the founding of the University of Michigan. 1817 is when the university was created as a legal entity and was given a plot of land in Detroit. The bicentennial is a little controversial. I'm an economic historian by trade. Such controversies are of interest to me. 1837 is the preferred date for those who want to celebrate when the university got started here at Ann Arbor. And faced with the choice, I think the university is going to celebrate two birthdays. So class of 2017, plan to come back in 20 years, plan to give generously, plan to celebrate our move to Ann Arbor. 1880 is another year of note. That's when the economics department was founded. That means you can plan to come back in 2030 to celebrate our sesquicentennial. So mark your calendars for that as well. Now, in the first 100 years, the economics department graduated 8,000 students. That average is about 80 per year. We've obviously gotten much bigger, and we're graduating now 500 students. So you're joining basically a population of 25,000 economics alumni. You will see them everywhere. Be proud to join their family. It is my honor to introduce the faculty who are here on stage. So this is Ed Chow, Chris Sproul, Alan Deerdorf. You can hold your applause for the end. Linda Tizar, Adam Stevenson, Stan Cito, Rod Caldwell, and Mitchell Dudley. And finally, it's my great pleasure to introduce Jim Adams. He is the Shorey Peterson Professor of Industrial Organization. He is the Theodore Professor of Economics. He is the heart and soul of our undergraduate program. Jim.
Good evening. And a very special good evening to the economics class of 2017. Last spring, when our dean, Andrew Martin, announced that Professor Paul Rohde would be the next chair of economics, my colleagues and I were delighted. Professor Rohde is a scholar's scholar. He writes articles and he writes books. Many articles and many books. Prize-winning articles and prize-winning books. But Professor Rohde's stellar scholarship is not the only reason we were delighted he would lead us. Professor Rohde is universally recognized as the fairest member of the department, the member most dedicated to making decisions on the basis of strength of argument, not strength of personality. As Director of Undergraduate Studies, I'm very fortunate indeed to be working with him. Thank you, Professor Rohde, for everything you have done in one short year to enhance the quality of Michigan economics. For many years, I participated in a different kind of event for parents and students. It's called Campus Day, and it's a program designed for high school seniors who applied to Michigan, were accepted by Michigan, and are trying to decide whether or not to come here. Campus Day is a day of questions. Where should I go? What should I study? How well will I do? How much will I learn? Well, just as Campus Day is a day of questions, so today is a day of answers. And for those of you who are graduating, the answers to the first three questions are clear. You chose Michigan, you chose economics, and you are receiving one of the most demanding undergraduate diplomas that Michigan offers. But what about the answer to that last question, the most important question, the question about intellectual growth and development? Only you can answer that question definitively, but I myself can say this. This semester, I taught a large lecture course for freshmen and sophomores in the LSA Honors Program. The title of the course was Capitalisms, and my goal was to explore the many forms that capitalism has taken over the centuries and across the globe. It was a wonderful experience for me, an opportunity to examine everything from the merchant capitalism of Renaissance Italy to the industrial capitalism of 18th century England and New England to the global capitalism of today. What made that experience so exciting for me was not just the subject, but also the students. The students were terrific, extremely intelligent, extremely eager to participate in class discussions, and extremely quick to learn. I also taught this semester a course on the European economy since World War II. This course was designed for seniors majoring in economics. These students were also terrific, intelligent, eager, and quick to learn. And yet, these students were different from the students in capitalisms. Most of the European economy students had already spent 3 years at Michigan studying lots of economics, and it showed. In addition to intelligence and eagerness and quickness, the seniors brought 2 additional qualities to their studies. First, they knew how to think critically about ideas and events. Second, they had sound knowledge of how the economic world actually works. This is the Michigan difference. This is the real reason why those who stay in economics at Michigan will indeed be intellectual champions. So what accounts for this difference? True, Michigan economics is hard. In fact, many students find it too hard. But hard is not the same thing as mind-building. So I myself attribute the intellectual value of a Michigan degree in economics to 3 factors. First, it is partly attributable to the faculty. Michigan is an elite department of economics. Since 1880, when the department was created, 4 members of the faculty have been elected presidents of the American Economic Association, the professional organization to which most professional economists belong. In Washington, 3 Michigan economists have been members of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, and 1 has been a governor of the Federal Reserve System. When I was an undergraduate studying economics, far away from Ann Arbor, my reading lists were full of books and articles written by members of the Michigan faculty. But faculty are not the only teachers in the undergraduate program. Many classes have discussion sections, and these sections are led by graduate students. It's important, therefore, to realize that Michigan also has an elite doctoral program in economics. Many of our doctoral alumni go on to distinguished academic careers at leading research universities and at leading liberal arts colleges. Others go on to distinguished careers in government or the private sector. Among the economists working in Washington for the Federal Reserve System, there are more who have a PhD in economics from Michigan than from any other school. As important as the faculty are, and as important as the graduate students are, we should not forget the third and most important reason why the study of economics at Michigan is so rewarding. And that is the exposure each student in the major has to all the other students in the major. Taken individually, Michigan economics students are loaded with talent and drive. Considered as a community, however, Michigan economics is loaded with boundless energy and relentless stimulation. Where do the energy and the stimulation come from? They come from the diversity of the student body. This diversity takes every form imaginable. As a result, whenever we explore an issue in class, our students bring an amazingly rich variety of life experiences to the conversation. Knowledge and wisdom depend on more than the reading of books and the transcription of lectures. They depend on continually being forced to re-examine one's assumptions and expectations. The diversity of life experience at a school like Michigan, and especially in the economics major, is an essential ingredient of the Michigan difference. And so, on behalf of my colleagues, to those of you who are parents, I say thank you. Thank you for sharing your children with us. And to those of you who are students, and especially to those of you who know about crushed peanut donuts, I say thank you for making our classrooms so stimulating. Thank you for bringing such satisfaction to me and my colleagues at the University of Michigan. Our featured speaker this evening has served with great distinction in the private sector, in the public sector, and in academia. In the private sector, she spent more than a decade as an officer of the General Motors Corporation, most of it as a group vice president responsible at various times for economic analysis, for environmental affairs, for industry government affairs, and for public relations. She served also as a director of several major multinational corporations, including Procter & Gamble, JP Morgan Chase, and Alcoa. In the public sector, she was the first woman ever appointed to the President's Council of Economic Advisors. She served also on the boards of such prestigious non-governmental organizations as the Council on Foreign Relations. In academia, she was a distinguished service professor at the University of Pittsburgh before joining the faculties of business and public policy here at Michigan. She has received more than 20 honorary degrees, and she has been on the governing boards of several American universities, including Harvard and Princeton. We are very fortunate indeed to have Professor Marina Whitman with us this evening. Please help me to welcome her to the podium.
Thank you, Jim. After an introduction like that, I feel I should stand up, smile, and then sit down to avoid having listeners think, as I talk, that they've been victims of a bait-and-switch scheme. Actually, though, I'm really pleased that I've been invited to address this particular subset of the large set of April 2017 Michigan graduations. That's because, as people who have been steeped in the economist's way of thinking, I can talk to you about a significant issue of public policy, rather than just recounting some version of the more usual and more general, go forth and do well by doing good, or do good by doing well. What I will spend a few minutes talking about is the decline of public goods, both in the United States and internationally, and why we should be concerned about it. And at the end, I'll even explain why I believe that you are an appropriate audience to hear this lament. First off, what are public goods? The formal definition is goods that are non-excludable and non-rivalrous. In plain English, that means that everyone can take advantage of them, and that one person's consumption of them doesn't reduce their availability to others. Many of these goods are provided by government and funded with our tax dollars, such as the highways that crisscross the country, the 84 million acres of national parks, and the roughly 100,000 public schools that give children access to education. Others come from nature, like mountains, lakes, and rivers, which also depend on a reliable government and meaningful regulations to preserve and protect them. While the collective value of these public goods is incalculable, the economic impact of schools, clean air, and vast highways has been significant. In fact, I would argue that public goods are what have made America great. While discouragingly, our stock of public goods has been declining for half a century, particularly of those goods that require the government's purse strings. Setting aside for a moment natural public goods, the ones provided by government have been on the decline. U.S. public capital investment, net of depreciation, fell to just 0.4% of gross domestic product in 2014. from 1.7% in 2007 and about 3% in the 1960s. A particularly critical subset, research and development spending, which has been the bedrock of innovation and growth in our economy, has dropped from a high of 2.1% of GDP in 1964, which was during the Cold War and the space race, to less than 0.8% in recent years. The president's proposed budget would make things even worse by cutting funding to national parks, the cleanup of the Great Lakes by 97%, by the way, which doesn't leave much, and efforts to minimize climate change, not to mention the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Arts, National Public Radio, and most outrageously of all, the EPA. I happened to have dinner tonight with a number of the senior staff at the EPA, by the way, who have been completely muzzled. They're not allowed to talk to the press or anybody else, but they certainly vented forth tonight. One exception is the president's much-touted plan to invest in infrastructure, but little of the estimated $1 trillion total proposed would actually come from the federal government. So if Trump is serious about making America as great as it can be, investing in our public goods, as well as those equally vitally ones that we share with other nations, would be a good place to start. This erosion of public goods has persisted through both Republican and Democratic administrations. But it was not always thus, as the bipartisan history of our biggest undertakings attests. The transcontinental railroads, though privately built in the mid-1800s, were heavily subsidized by generous grants of federal land under several presidents and were vital to 19th century economic growth. As one illustration, before the railroads, it took almost 6 months and $1,000 to travel from New York to California. Afterwards, it cost just a week and $150. And today, of course, the time spent has gone way down, although not necessarily the cost. Similar gains came after 20th century presidents invested heavily in public works. Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, established the National Park Service in 1916, a few years after Republican Theodore Roosevelt had greatly expanded the number of such parks. U.S. parks are now responsible for more than $200 billion a year in economic activity. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the quintessential Democrat, built schools, post offices, libraries, and many other public buildings in the 1930s. And Republican Dwight Eisenhower created the interstate highway system that bears his name. And that was the biggest public works project in history. An estimate in 1996 put its total economic benefit at well over $2 trillion, about 6 times the original cost. One bright spot for public goods has been those shared across national borders, which have proliferated since World War II. The U.S. took the lead in establishing some of the key international institutions, like the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, that provide public goods to the world. Healthy oceans, a stable climate, and cross-border money transfers all require international coordination for their protection. Probably the most critical public good is peace. While there have been many regional wars, a third world conflict has been avoided, in no small measure, because in the aftermath of World War II, the United States undertook to stabilize key regions of the world through military expenditures, strategic alliances like NATO, and economic assistance. Although increasingly frayed and fragile, these arrangements, often called the Pax Americana, have so far held. The broadest, if not the sturdiest, steward of public goods has been the United Nations and its associated agencies. I won't go into here the saga of what the UN has and has not done to lower the likelihood of global conflict. But other public goods also fall under its purview. Freedom of navigation, for instance, is protected by the UN's Law of the Sea. Ironically, the United States has never signed this treaty, although we do in fact abide by its rules. The United States has also led in the creation of the World Trade Organization, which sets the rules for international trade and the settlement of trade disputes. But since the 1960s, the bipartisan consensus in our Congress in support of public goods has broken down, as the right's pressure to cut taxes and the left's efforts to expand entitlements squeezed the discretionary part of the federal budget, from which support for public goods comes. Both parties have moved further from the center, where bipartisanship resides, and make large public works projects easier to build and to fund. Meanwhile, a focus on reducing spending has meant that many once public goods, such as trash collection and public education, have in places been fully or partially privatized. Finally, many studies have found that, quote, ethnic and racial heterogeneity reduces support for public goods. In other words, racism plays a role. Now, not only does the Trump administration wish to significantly slash spending on already deteriorating U.S. public goods, it aims to cut funding for global institutions like the UN as well. And the strategic alliances the United States has entered into and the new institutions it has nurtured to protect and promote international public goods are under threat. The president has called NATO obsolete, although he seems to have changed his view on that recently, and is reputedly looking for ways to bypass the World Trade Organization's dispute settlement system mechanism if too many of its decisions go against the United States. Whether the U.S. formally pulls out of the Paris Agreement on climate change is not yet settled, but the policies of this administration affecting greenhouse gas emissions will surely nullify President Obama's pledge regarding the steps the U.S. intends to take. More generally, the president's trade protectionism, his oft-repeated disdain for multilateral agreements, and his insistence that only the welfare of U.S. citizens matters, has sent nations and regions that once trusted in the Pax Americana scurrying for alternative sources of mutual protection. The outlook does not bode well for the preservation or enhancement of public goods, domestic or international. This despite the fact that investing in public goods has served America well through the years, and it would be a huge mistake to turn our backs on them. Why do I think that you graduates are an appropriate audience for my rather rueful remarks? Most of you will not become professional economists, but I dare say that whatever professions you choose, many of you will be in a position to have a measurable effect on public policy. And your training in economics has given you both a rigorous methodology for analyzing problems and a focus on a variety of significant real-world issues, as Jim Adams has already mentioned. So, as older generations are forever want to lay on the shoulders of the young the burden of repairing the mess that our generation has made of the world, I am confident that you will put the modes of thought that you have acquired here at Michigan to the task of tackling one or another of the local, national, or global problems, only one of which I've outlined briefly here. So Godspeed to every one of you and to your families who have provided the support in various forms to get you through the past 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Whitman, for that fitting capstone experience that we've all been thinking about having for the past 2 weeks or so. To graduate with a BA or a BS in economics is already a major achievement. As I mentioned before, our major is one of the most challenging on campus, but a few of our students have performed with exceptional distinction. Some have won special prizes, and some will graduate with honors in economics. Seated behind me are students who will be receiving honors in economics this graduation period. I'm going to ask them to stand when I call their name and remain standing until all names are called. I would ask you to hold your applause until all individuals are named. Adrian Apeza, high honors in economics. Bradley Chavis, high honors in economics. Shuyi He, high honors in economics. Xiaokai Lai, high honors in economics. Ethan McCall, high honors in economics. Elliot Metzler, high honors in economics. Pengyu Ren, high honors in economics. And Hannah Marie Rodenheiser, high honors in economics. Before we begin the next part of our program, I want to recognize the efforts and achievements of our faculty advisors. Each student has an advisor, and most students rely on their advisors for precious advice about how best to navigate the field of economics and how best to navigate our department. Speaking from a faculty perspective, I know that we could never maintain the quality of our undergraduate program without the dedicated and intelligent work of our advisors. I will ask each one of them to stand and remain standing. Please hold your applause until I identify all 6 of them. Ron Caldwell, Ed Cho, Mitchell Dudley, Chris Prue, Stan Cito, Adam Stevenson. I would ask all but Dr. Cho to sit at this time. Every year, the students of the University of Michigan select the person they consider to be the best teacher at the university. Approximately 4,000 members of the faculty are eligible. This year, the students selected an economist, someone who teaches both introductory and more advanced courses in the undergraduate curriculum. Please join me in congratulating this year's winner of the Golden Apple Award, the only university-wide award for teaching that is decided by the students. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Edward Cho. I also want to thank the people who worked extremely hard to ensure the festivity of this evening in Power Center. Not all of them are in the room right now, but those who are should stand and wave when I call their name. Again, please hold your applause until I complete the list. Olga Mustada, Coordinator of Undergraduate Student Services. Ms. Mustada organized this entire event, and there she is, right in front where she belongs. Lauren Pillay, Head of Student Services. Mary Mangum, Department Manager, and the assistants of our entire economic staff, Rhonda Abrigo, Laura Flack, Julie Hines, Cassandra Kelly, Vinny Veeraraghavan, and Colleen Waitley. I think these people deserve a thundering ovation. If you applaud loudly enough, they will hear you even if they're not in the room. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the time when we are going to present degrees, in quotation marks, to the candidates. Each student will be announced and receive a certificate on stage. Many students are involved in this portion of the ceremony, and so we'll try to proceed with all deliberate speed. If you wish to take pictures, there will be opportunities in the lobby after the ceremony. I now call on my colleagues Ed Cho, Mitchell Dudley, and Chris Prue to man their positions. Okay. And we will start with the recipients of honors in economics.
Bradley Chavis,
Hannah Rodenhisser,
Sherry He,
Dongming Yu,
Yuan Chen,
Vincent Chen,
Pengyu Ren,
Adrian Apeza Kedrenza Anopaza,
Yu Wu,
And now we're going to proceed with all of the candidates.
Jeshuan Zhang,
Lu Ye,
Sahil Misra,
Shiyuan In,
Joseph Wei,
Brandon Gomez,
Caitlin Short,
Anthony Gomez,
William David Haddad,
Evan De Silva,
Ilhana Redzovic,
Girija Nair,
Alicia Naz Shakil Ahmad,
Teiro Nazaruan Tamula Kaninam Sam,
Sarah Ma,
Francisco Kilgay,
Mahir Batnugar,
Ching Ven,
Juhonzeb Junhania,
Tyler Graff,
Zachary Taylor,
William Grubb,
Drew Carl Gustafson,
Stephen Johnston,
Yifan Zhao,
Jiahong Pan,
Wei Yan,
Andrew Quato,
Daniel Bierman,
Catherine Hammett,
Haley Rosenfeld,
Ishan Saraswat,
Gregory Popper,
Austin Mead,
Lamont Liner,
Grace Filler,
Annie Chen,
Annie Shu,
Kong Tran,
Emily Butte.
Danielle Chen.
G. Judson Hughes III.
Benjamin Braden.
Ethan McCall.
Kathleen Wallace.
Andy Bello.
Matthew Yasso.
Spencer Pop.
August Klatt.
Zachary Vigneault.
Kyle Horn.
Matt Tesgeden.
Samuel Iden.
Eric Shugan.
Emma Silverman.
Gabriel Grand.
Sarah Uhlenbecker.
Nitikorn Dornjadong.
Clarence Lung.
Omar Uyas.
Jaegu Kim.
Anna Graff.
Rebecca Noesk.
Xiang Lian.
Xiao Shi.
Yingshi Li.
Kartikai Gothi.
Bianca Arredondo.
Stacy Lee.
Mengshi Bai.
Drake Donter.
Christopher Norbert.
Stephen O'Neill.
Rodrigo Ray.
Michael Capatula.
Shelby Welch.
Brian Hayward.
Justin Gaber.
Kevin Klein.
Luke Cardigan.
Catherine Troutman.
Haodong Xu.
Mingshu Zong.
Mary Khalid Mika.
Tamer Abu Halawa.
Sarah Biello.
William Garrett Klumpar.
Deepti Ori.
Rahul Babna.
Ashwarya Singh.
Trent Jones.
Zachary Jason Peach.
Nicholas John.
Xiaomiao Lin.
Michelle Hambali.
Julian Smith.
Zachary Bear.
Harrison Slutsky.
Lyle Andrew Tripp.
Unkit Tiwari.
Rohit Agarwal.
Lakshiman Pulpuri.
Grant Strickler.
Anais Rachel.
Noah Fabs.
Jeff Hain.
Scott Fessler.
Evan Hernandez.
Carrie Clifford.
Leah Catherine Parks.
Latasha Jenkins.
Sindhu Devineni.
Alexander Roman Kendig.
Christian Camp.
David Kriskowski.
John Matthew West.
Matt Ordover.
Ryan Hager.
Uviv Brower Cowan.
Jackson Nethercott.
Alice Freed.
Daniel Caden.
Bradley Whipple.
Amanda Tina Sicarelli.
Andrew Pionkutsky.
Joshua Crown.
Chuck Kong Jeffrey Leung.
Robert Christie.
Sean LeBlanc.
Benjamin Scher.
Harrison Witzke.
Yoo Jong Kim.
Yoon Jung Kim.
Mingyang Liu.
Ching Lai Zhang.
Dongzi Li.
Chen Zhang.
Meng Xiang.
Jason Lees.
Jasnor Singh.
Chance Mingus.
Kemia Sohail.
Jacob Armas.
David Shin.
Allison Courts.
Anthony Lamousse.
Adam Jansen.
Shi Yang.
Tian Wang.
Yulika Vusekle.
Eleanor Claire Donardo.
Shay Caroline Miller.
Morgan Grantner.
Michael Henry.
Josh Patel.
William Lane.
Darsh Khosla.
Claire Hudak.
John Benson.
Aaron Pollock.
Lindsay Ray Smith.
Anthony Folks.
Nathaniel John Riley.
Michael Dole.
Justin Choi.
Juyun Ha.
David Song.
Cantor Reinke.
Jake Blyweiss.
Chris McAllister.
Mitchell Black.
Ching Tai.
Sherry Xie.
Ziyan Yang.
Jenna Jin.
Samantha Lynn Hyman.
Se-Yuen Lee.
Tian-Yi Chen.
Jared Saffer.
Julian Patterson.
Connor Vandenbosch.
Taiwu Adeni.
Charlie Plavin.
Luke Hanna.
Michael Chula.
Aria Savaduk Vadkukui.
Connor Quigley.
Philippe Ogden.
Nihal Ani Shetty.
Sheila Chan.
Joseph Klotz.
Augusto Costa.
C. Chen.
Andrew Camp.
Nathan Cowden.
Craig Zimmerman.
Matthew Presta.
Mark Tiener.
Joseph Krieger.
Ethan Tannenbaum.
Matthew Bugai.
Jacob Bernard Lurim.
Arun Datta.
Ryan Oderkirk.
Charles Morau.
Zachary Cormac Nerod.
Sean Horgans.
Chris Slivosky.
Ryan Jarouche.
Amber Lown.
Ryan O'Donnell.
Kevin Chu.
Philip Nessler.
Vic Santa Prukash.
Thomas Lewis.
Brian Furlong.
Neil Kedharnath.
Jennifer Kim.
Seth Johnson.
Jasmine Rousoulier.
Ryan White.
Robert Shepard.
Kevin DeWandeler.
Michael Makarowicz.
Kevin Toyloy.
William Thompson.
Tyler Dayton.
Emily Leesman.
Annie Procaccini.
Nami E. Train.
James Howe.
Greg Van Alstyne.
Stephen Berg.
Jeremy Glad.
Ryan Van Degens.
David Dew.
It remains only for me to turn you back over to the chair of the department, Professor Rohde.
Well, thank you for this wonderful evening. It's my pleasure to call it to a close. We are going to ask that you recess in the following order to the lobby, where we'll have an opportunity for taking pictures and having conversations and so on. So the faculty will leave the stage first, then the honors students who are on the stage, and then we'll ask the rest of you to depart and join us in the lobby. Thank you so much for this wonderful evening.